everybody's coming in looking amazing. Like this COVID is nothing for folk out there in the streets. They are coming in looking their best selves. Let me welcome back to the show. She is a what? How do I describe? I know she's an entrepreneur. I'm going to say that CEO of Lauren Napier Beauty. But she's also a world class makeup artist and an amazing face person. Like she get your face gathered up. Let me welcome back to the show, Lauren Napier. Hi.
Hi. Hello. Nice to see you.
See you too, my Taurian sister.
That's it.
So,
That's it.
yes, last time you were on, we were talking about consider something better. It is Thrive Thursday, and you are still out there making sure that Black women are considered and that there's something better. So,
That
tell
there
us
is
more about
something
what you're
better.
doing.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for what's happened with Consider Something Better, but I also feel like it's really important to address sort of the elephant in the room. And this is what we're doing. This is a conversation that we're having right now. Consider Something Better launched in 2020 after all of the social injustices and unrest, and also at the time where Black owned businesses were really suffering and corporations were making these huge commitments to advancing Black people and also ending this, or not ending, but I guess like slowing down the injustices that exist. Well, this year, Consider Something Better at the intersection of Black Women's Equal Pay Day, Black Entrepreneurship Month, are having a conversation about Black women in the white space and also the performative allyship that accompanied the Black Square a year and a half ago. And so what we're finding is that corporations and conglomerates actually pledged over $50 billion to eradicating social injustice, but only committed less than 1% of that. Only $250 million has actually been allocated. And it's now time to talk about that and call out those corporations and conglomerates for what they have said, but not what they did, and also how that has really impacted Black businesses and Black women and our hopes to advance when it's corporations that we patronize but are not giving back to us.
So, Lauren Napier, what you're saying is they pledged, got the PR, got all of the great press, but then haven't delivered the checks.
Absolutely. And so for a year and a half, my co-founder and I, Whitney Brown, have just been having these conversations with major companies. And we're saying, what are you doing to advance this community? And so we've got some really great speakers that will be on our panel having the discussion about what is going to happen. I do want to say though that Consider Something Better has made some waves and some steps and has been able to advance Black women. We worked with Hennessy's Never Stop, Never Settle program to make sure that their $1 million pledge to the Black community had representation with Black women. So we made sure that some Black women actually were allocated grants and funding in that space. So that's very exciting. And we'll continue to push and advocate for Black women and Black women-owned businesses.
So, Lauren, I met you, many years ago,
Yeah.
in the makeup room at MSNBC, which
Hmm.
is, corporate, and been with you on this journey, Napier Beauty, Lauren Napier Beauty, traveled with your products to Africa, and any time I got on an airplane, because it's today the best on the market, period, full stop. So if
Yeah.
you haven't gotten your products, you go to Lauren Napier .com, Lauren Lauren Napier Napier.com, or is it napierbeauty.com? I want to
It's
be correct.
laurennapier.com.
That's what I thought.
It is me, the face of beauty. But I will say this: we'll take a left turn. But Lauren Napier Beauty, I am doing some very exciting things. I'm working with a Black chemist and Black formulator, a PhD from MIT, and I'm developing advanced skincare for specifically Black women. I wanted to say and be inclusive, but we're going to talk to Black women because so long people have not spoken to Black women. So look for that in 2022. I'm very excited about all of the advances that this brand is making and where it's going and who specifically it's serving.
I bring up, the origin story because, you started talking about Black women in white spaces. And, the transition now during this pandemic, so many of us are, the pleasure to not go into the office,
Mm-hmm.
not go into these spaces of microaggression, and not going into these spaces where we have to fold and, comport ourselves in a certain kind of way to make other people comfortable. What has been the biggest transition for you into your own business, first of all? And then tell us, on your worst day in that space, what did you have to compromise in yourself to be there?
When I was actually physically in the white space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I think there are so many uh pet to threat scenarios that exist, right? And I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but it's like you go in and you're like the the pet, someone that they want to play with and get to know, and not necessarily get to know, but observe and admire. And then when you become too cute or too smart, or your star shines a little brighter, or your capabilities are on display, your talents are on display. This is what often happened to me, is that I was the amiable Black woman. I have a name that even sounds non-traditionally Black. So I would walk in and they'd be surprised to see me. And maybe uh, the stereotypes didn't align with what I looked like. And then I was talented. So, I mean, and obviously we all have to be talented to get into those spaces in the first place. But I became a threat. So at first I was the cute, skinny, Black girl coming into the room. And then I became, oh, the Black woman in the room who knows how to do not just Black women's makeup, but Asian women's makeup and white women's makeup and men's makeup. And then she can actually hold a conversation about politics in the room, or has aspirations outside of this makeup room. So those are things that happen to me in those spaces. And it's something that I dealt with, and something where I actually was traumatized by this experience. I went to therapy because I kept saying, I'm encountering all these issues. What is it with me? What am I doing? And I had to come to this realization that those microaggressions are not about me. They are really about the insecurities and inferiority that is being projected on me. And finding a way to deal with that and navigate that in those spaces. And what I did was, instead of admiring me in a employee subordinate way, it was like, move into my greatness, and then they can admire me from afar. So that's where I am. That's what I'm
Catch
doing.
the wave. So
Catch
how
the
did it
wave.
show up though? To go from pet to threat, how did it show up? And how did it hamper you that led you to
I mean, listen,
therapy?
it would show up in ways where, the makeup department, you come in in a schedule, and they would throw 5 or 6 people at me. And then they wouldn't, they'd make it so I couldn't have my lunch, or they poke you until it becomes a very volatile situation, so that there's a reaction, so they can turn and say, see, we knew that that's who she was. We knew that that stereotype actually is a reality. It was confirmed. And so that's how it would show up. It's hostile, but it's a slow, also ambient threat. And then it starts to gear up and wind up, and there becomes a pressure, and it's not always from one person, it can be from many people. And I had a job, and I'm not quite ready to talk about the pain that it caused me, but I loved this job. It was my favorite job that I ever did. And my superior was there for 22 years and was so threatened by my skill set. Just and I admired that person's work very much. And um, you know, as cast members started to request me and wanted me to be there, that person made it very difficult for me to be there. Producers were fighting for me, directors were fighting for me, actors were fighting for me, but this person's insecurities outweighed my skills and outweighed their requests, and so that was very upsetting and painful. But one day I'll talk about it, and I will name all the
Okay.
names. The names will be named.
I can't wait. But in the meantime, I think the success is the greatest revenge. I hear that often. And
Yeah.
watching you and watching what you were able to build and pivot into is amazing. Lauren Napier. You can go to laurennapier.com and check out all of her wonderful products. And we know what's coming. But talk just a little bit more about Consider Something Better. You founded that. I remember having a conversation with you at the precipice of this. Where is it now and what do you do and how do people interact with it?
Yeah, definitely. So considersomethingbetter.com is the website. We're also Consider Something Better on social. We're having conversations and making sure that we are challenging these corporations and conglomerates to fulfill the promises that they made. It's not just enough to make a promise, there has to be action behind it. And we're living in a world where um, many voices can be heard. And I think it's paramount that Black women are heard, respected, and action takes place when we make a statement. Um, our dollar is there. You know, we have a multi-trillion-dollar spending power in this country, and then we have a ripple effect throughout the world, no matter what space it's in, sports, entertainment, beauty, finance, even in science and STEM. And so you have to listen to us, respect us, and fulfill the commitments that you make to us. We're no longer standing accepting nothing. We're fighting for the change. And so that's what Consider Something Better is doing. We are advocating and championing Black women, and specifically Black women-led businesses, to get them funded, because Black women-led businesses are totally underfunded. You know, the average investment size for us is $35,000, where for a white man it's 2 million. So there's sweeping disparities, and we want to make sure that those gaps are closed.
So you and your partner Whitney Brown
Yes.
got together and you did this considersomethingbetter.com. When you go there, you need funding, click on need funding
Mhm.
and fill out the form. And then what happens next, Lauren
What
Napier?
happens next is, as we continue to work with corporations and they continue to invest back into Consider Something Better, we are distributing and allocating funding directly to these women without uh, data mining. We're making it much easier. I think when, Black owned businesses are run very differently because of the way that we start and the way that we scale and the way that we grow. Um, there are considerations that are made for larger businesses that are not made for us. And also, um, there are different considerations for what a small business is. So we're looking at businesses that are run from home, businesses that are, real authentic startups with you and your sister or you and your cousin in your garage packing boxes. To us, a small business is two people. To other people, a small business has 27 employees. That's not where we start. That's not our vantage point. So
Gotcha.
Consider Something Better is allocating funding to small businesses.
All right. So August 18th, what happens?
Yes, a symposium, a conversation, Black women in the white space, and really refocusing on the way corporations really failed us and took advantage of us for PR purposes.